first time to do this.
Yeah, all right.
Welcome to your life.
Oh my goodness, it's a long one.
Yeah, we just pulled this off of the wall, and
I love that picture. Yeah.
but how old were you here?
Oh gosh, I don't know. We're trying to decide when that picture was taken.
Well, I would have been around
15,
14,
15 years old, and we'll figure that out.
28 or something.
Yeah, 28, could be, yeah.
But see, I've always seen you as much older than me, and yet if you think about it, you're really not.
Not really that much older. I was 13 when you were born.
But it's interesting because you're kind of like a mom to me in some ways.
I was your mom then.
Right.
I remember I told Dad, oh, I'll take care of you, I'll take care of you. Yeah.
And that was during the war.
During World War
So Daddy was gone for like 4 years.
I don't think he saw you till you were almost 3.
Right.
Yeah.
So you actually almost raised a baby.
When I almost hated it when he took you away after the war.
Right.
Yeah.
So then Sandy comes along not till after he gets back.
First time I saw Sandy, I was in New Orleans in nursing school, and she was 18 months old. And when I saw her for the first time, and she wouldn't come to me at all. She kept turning away, and I kept trying to get her, and she wouldn't come to me.
Oh, so you weren't even at her birth?
No, I wasn't there when she was born. She was 18 months old, I think. That's my memory, that she was 18. And then before I went back to New Orleans, do you remember your dad had that Quonset hut over in Sanford?
On the river, yeah.
And I think Georgie Berrios had come home with me, my roommate, and we went over for the weekend, and Sandy came to me. And I have a picture somewhere where she's in between my legs out of this Quonset hut, and I had her then, by that time.
So let's go back to not your birth, but a lot of kids and a single mom back in the days where that wasn't the norm.
Right.
So it wasn't all that easy, I guess, at times, financially.
Oh, you mean for Gaga,
yeah.
Raising 5 kids.
Yeah.
Well, of course, my brothers and sisters were older than me, so and my mother worked, and they worked. My memory was that they all worked, so I was pretty much on my own all day long.
So you obviously couldn't almost leave the house, or?
Oh no, I was free as a bird, absolutely free as a bird. I went where I wanted to go, and I went to the beach all the time. And I remember I wore little shirts and shorts, and usually little sandals. And I'd go to the beach, and I'd always lose my shirt and my shoes because I'd go swimming in my shorts.
Well, I remember stories you used to swim out to the end of the pier.
Trudy and I both. We talk about it now at this age, and we're horrified that we did that.
But thinking, the undertow, the waves.
It didn't bother us in the least. We knew how to float on our backs and get away from them, get away from the rip currents, and we used to deliberately try to go out to a second sandbar because we knew we could catch a wave from the second sandbar, and we especially loved to go through and under the pier pilings if we could do it. Yeah.
Well, I look at your glasses now, and I remember through the years I could always remember when you take your glasses off, you couldn't see your makeup.
Oh, blind as
apparently you needed glasses.
I was blind as a bat, yeah. And I never could see on the beach. I remember when I got older, I used to tell people I knew, listen, if you see me on the beach and you wave and I don't wave back, is it because I don't have my glasses on? Because I won't see if I don't have my glasses on.
But you've told me stories of in school you didn't have glasses for years.
No, that's right. Grammar school. They didn't discover I needed glasses till I was in the latter part of the 6th grade. And I didn't know I needed glasses. That was normal to me. But as a result of my needing glasses, I became a very, very good reader. And I used to live at our local library reading books.
But you're also, with the dunce, sometimes had to sit on the stool.
Oh, yes, I did. With the multiplication tables, the big cards, with 5 by 5 on them. And if they'd flash them to me and say, what is this, Joanne? I'd say, I don't know. And then I'd be put out in the corridor on the dunce stool with all of the multiplication cards. And I said, I'm really good at multiplication. But I never was good in class.
So what about your reading at the library? Because I always love those stories.
The reading in the library, I never went to the children's section. I always went to the adult section. And my favorite stories that I really didn't know what it all meant was, and they made movies out of them, was Taproots and O Promised Land and God Has a Long Face. I read all those books when I was in about the 3rd grade, I think. Yes.
Which obviously bridges us to our joint love of movies.
Oh yeah, right.
So both of us have we got to get into movies.
I can be upset about something and go to a movie and totally forget what I was upset about. But where I lived, we had 2 movies within walking distance on Main Street, the Lyric Theater and the Florida Theater. And I used to just walk in with people all the time. And I can remember.
Well, you do without even paying?
Oh, I never paid. I didn't have any money to pay anyway. I don't even know how much it cost, but I used to just get with people and just walk in with them.
And you said the brothers would come find you on
If
the
they
front
would
row?
come for me, they'd always come to the front row, because that's where I saw the best, was on the front row of the theater.
Well, that's funny because you remember when Daddy came home, there were no apartments, and we lived over the top of a movie theater.
Oh, I love that place in Sanford.
Right.
Right.
So when you'd come see us, you and I could go out of our apartment into the
Take
balcony of the
2
movie.
steps down, take a right-hand turn, and do you remember also what you told me? You said that I couldn't go sit on the other side because that was for the black people.
And it really was.
I know.
And
I
yet,
remember.
do you remember Fats?
Oh, yes, I do.
Okay, well, if you were my mother, Fats was my father because he was a big African-American,
jolly,
great big 300-pound guy.
Yeah.
But he took me to school every day and picked me up from school.
Yeah.
And I think that's, the most lovable. And Miss Partain ran the candy counter.
Candy counter.
Right.
And that's also what I remember about y'all being in Sanford was when Sandy was born, apparently, the only place she played was in the theater.
Right.
And when she'd come over to Daytona, if she got dirt on her hands, she used to just cry and cry. She had dirt on her hands.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you remember our phone number in the movie theater?
Oh, gosh, no.
22.
22, are you kidding?
No area code.
Just 22. That's funny.
So I was
Trudy would probably remember it.
See, I was such a big deal because of the movies.
Yeah.
So I went with my cowboy hat and guns on one day.
Uh-oh.
Walked across the street to the A&P and bought a loaf of bread for 10 cents or whatever. Probably gave her a quarter and told her to keep the change. So mother made me go back and get the
change. Whoops.
So
what, you'd seen your daddy do that when y'all went out to eat or something, probably.
So, Gaga.
Oh, our Gaga.
How did she do it? How did she make a living?
I don't have a clue. She sewed. She also worked in a boarding house where she cooked for the men who, traveling salesmen, I guess, who came there and stayed. She cooked their breakfast, then they would leave, and she would go in and strip the beds and clean the rooms and do the laundry and remake the beds, and she worked all day, every day.
Didn't she walk across the bridge to work sometimes?
When she worked, I think it was called the Princess Shop, and yes, and she walked across the Broadway Bridge.
Which would have been people.
Because we didn't have a car.
Right.
Yeah.
But she learned to drive early.
Well, the thing about what made me think about the car with her was my first car. I didn't know how to drive either, and I didn't get it till I was like 22 years old when I had a job. But I took a notion that I couldn't back it down my driveway. I just suddenly took a notion I couldn't do that, and she went out there, and it was a stick shift, and she turned it around up in the driveway so it would go.
And you didn't know she could drive a stick
I
shift?
didn't even know she could drive at all. Yeah, because I'd never seen her drive a car. But she could do anything. She with her cooking, she'd have 20 people for Christmas or Thanksgiving and never ruffle a hair. Nothing.
Pies, you remember the pies?
Yeah. Which reminds me, my favorite story about her pies, and maybe you remember it because everybody was there. I can't remember whether it was Thanksgiving or Christmas, but everybody loved her lemon meringue pies. So she made a lemon meringue pie, and when she went to take it out, and the meringue was usually real high and just golden, just beautiful, and when she took it out of the oven, the meringue had just gone down to about a 50-cent size. So she wouldn't even serve it. She was so upset about it. And she waited about 3 months, and then she made another one. Well, this time when she took it out of the oven, it was gorgeous, but she made it early morning, so she put it in the fridge. And when she got ready to serve it, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and she took it out of the fridge, the meringue had gotten stuck to the shelf, so all the meringue stayed behind on the shelf, so she wouldn't serve that. She never made another lemon meringue pie.
So, how did you decide you want to be a nurse?
I always wanted to be a nurse. That's all I ever said I was going to be, was a nurse.
But why would you go to New Orleans to be a nurse?
Because my mother didn't want me coming home. I came home 2 times.
Because she couldn't afford to...
Couldn't afford to come back and forth at all. And she also, one of the people that she did alterations for, her daughter was a head nurse in the operating room at a Turo in New Orleans. And so she told Mother, well, you ought to send her to New Orleans. My daughter could help her out some. So that's where I went.
So you went to Turo Nursing School and some courses at Tulane.
Turo Infirmary School of Nursery. And yeah, we took our first year, General Ed at Tulane. Yeah. And I was so ecstatic about going to New Orleans because I thought, during World War II, by the way, when I was a teenager, we couldn't go out at night because the town was in blackout. So I was at an age where I could go out at night, but I couldn't go out at night because we had a blackout. So when I knew I was going to New Orleans, I thought, oh, this is going to be marvelous. Absolute freedom. Well, it was worse than a convent because we had to be in at 8 o'clock every night.
And they worked you too.
And we worked, yeah, after 9 months, we staffed the entire hospital from 3 to 11 and 11 to 7. And we had all of our classes in the daytime. But it was all a good experience, every bit of it. Yeah.
So in women's lib and management and so forth, you come home, you become a nurse, and then you're a director of nursing at 28 years old or something?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
that was neat, wasn't it? Yeah, that was real neat.
I mean, back in those
I
days.
went the whole step ladder. I did staff nursing. And by the way, when I first worked at Halifax, they told me to work 7 to 11 a.m. in the morning and come back at 7 o'clock at night and work till 11 p.m. And you just say, yes, sir.
So how'd you ever get promoted up so fast?
Just, well, I worked hard and I liked what I was doing, so I went from staff nurse to head nurse on a unit, and from head nurse to supervisor, and from supervisor to assistant director, and then assistant director to director of nursing, which was nice. Yeah.
And then in the perfection of life, you married a surgeon.
Oh yeah, right. Well, that was an unfortunate time. so we prefer to not remember too much about that.
Didn't turn out as perfectly as you thought.
No, didn't. Unfortunately.
So Gaga, I can always remember her, not her church going because but her dedication to her choir. I mean, she did the choir for how many years?
Oh, long as I can remember, she was in the choir, and she had just a little tiny voice, but she gave it her all. She loved that church.
For on and on and on. And
which also brings me up one more thing about Gaga. When I was little, and she took me to church, of course, all the time, and when I got home from church that day, I asked her where her pocketbook was, and she said, why do you want my pocketbook? And I said, because I have this money. I have this money for you. And she said, where did you get that money? I said, from church.
So you took
I don't remember this. She tells me that story.
You took it out of the basket.
Yeah, I took it out of the basket, but she made me go back to the church and give it to the preacher and tell him that I took it from the basket. I don't remember that at all, but she tells me that story.